joining us. We have Emma, Ivy, Tommaso, Benjamin, and Olaf.
Yes.
There we go. Right, so where do we start? I think let's talk about avant-garde theatre. I think that's a good place to start, and then we'll come on to Richard in particular. So we might as well start with you. It's all about you. What is it about? What is it? What is avant-garde?
Sit down. Quiet voice, you see. What is avant-garde?
I don't know, there's two parts. I guess there's the time in which it was written, which was obviously in the 60s in New York. This was 74, but it started in the 60s. And it was a reaction, obviously, against traditional theatre that was going on at the time. So they took text and ripped it up and stripped it of meaning. So I guess the context is different now. The context really is that this kind of theatre doesn't exist, certainly not commercially. If it is avant-garde, it's probably full of meaning. Nowadays, I've often seen avant-garde theatre, it's full of meaning, whereas this show is absolutely meaningless. It has literally no story whatsoever. So that's the avant-garde for us. I mean, interestingly, we've resisted chatting about what's going on in the play pretty much up until end of last week. And then we sat down and said, so what do you think it's about? And everybody had different opinions, but really we don't really care what it's about. It's just nice to do it. I mean, I guess you guys, some of you are more interested in avant-garde, and some of you have done more classical theatre, so it's quite an interesting mixture of actors, I would say. So Ola, do you like avant-garde theatre? The answer is yes.
I do now, yeah. Yes, is that the question?
What's avant-garde to you?
What is avant-garde to me? What I found that it is to me through this is that it's kind of like a portal through which to explore what's going on in your own life. Because it has no meaning, that you then find out like what your mind is focused on when you watch it, because you start creating a story, like undoubtedly. Yeah, so it's kind of like a nice mirror, I think.
What do you think the story was?
What's
the story was? Tell them. I've seen them. I picked him on
Oh
purpose.
no. I was preparing myself for the question. What is the story? I guess.
Or how do you navigate it yourself?
How do I navigate it? I guess it's just kind of, well, like Max's journey.
See, you're not
It just sort of happens, really. I think that's the best way to describe it. I don't know, I see like each scene as like a series of like happenings, as it were. So it's not kind of like, it's not really like a journey through them. Each scene is its own particular story, and kind of it's more about like the images that come across or don't come across. That's kind of like how I like navigated through it all. Yeah.
Picking up on that, Patrick, so where do you start with this? Obviously, you've got the writer Richard Forman. What does he give you? Does he give you a script that you then work from? Or is it devised in a workshop? Where do you go from it?
Well, the scripts are long since out of publication, so it's good for me. Don't have to pay the rights, that's good. They have long since gone, so you can't really find the scripts. They're very, very difficult to find, certainly these early ones. And within the text is, as these guys can attest, there is nothing. It's literally just lines and lines and lines and lines and lines. The occasional stage direction, which suggests stuff to you. But really, I guess in rehearsal, well, again, I've talked to these guys a lot, they can speak more on it because they've done the hard work, really, is that we haven't played, so we didn't go to rehearsal and say, now let's play and find a nice picture. It was, unfortunately, just me kind of dictating it. And then everybody else embellishing it, so getting the basic shape of what was happening on stage, and then everybody else adding their own kind of bit to the scene. And that's literally the only way you can do it. And I think it's quite exhausting. It's quite exhausting after you cook it for an hour. Could you imagine if they went on for 2 hours? Jesus. Thinking of an hour's worth of kind of content which is, visually interesting, was just the work in the room that we did, and everybody's kind of contribution once we set the scene. So yeah, the scripts are really difficult. I mean, I get learning the lines Although I've always said, don't worry if you forget lines, because nobody will know. Just carry on. And that's the thing, I think the hugest task in this is for the actors. I was just speaking to Neil Swesson, who had to leave, sadly, who's the curator of the UK Richard Forman archive. Yes, that exists in his house somewhere. He was asking me to pass on his congratulations. He's seen all of the work since the 60s and up until now, and he said it was up there with the original kind of work. So he asked me to congratulate you all. And then Richard Forman literally couldn't care less that we were doing this. So I've visited him twice. He's now 82 and now predominantly works in film. And I went, kind of gang-handed, gung-ho, saying, "Oh my God, we're doing a whole season of your work in London. It's never been done before." The only person to ever direct Richard Forman here was himself in 1997, and nobody has ever touched the scripts ever since, even in America, maybe for good reason. But we did, so I was like, "Oh my God, we're doing it," and he's like, "Why?" And he's that kind of person, because all of his plays are very personal to him. That's all introverted. The characters that you saw on stage, so Rhoda, Max, Carl, Sophia, Eleanor, they appear in almost every other one of his plays, and they're not so much characters as kind of parts of himself. So Rhoda is his kind of suppressed sexuality, Sophia is his philosophical musings, and so when you start delving into that, you kind of see the pattern that goes through it. But his reaction to us doing it was one of total disinterest, until I sent him the rehearsal photos, and I know that always works, and he replied saying, "I really wish I could be there, and see it with you all, and congratulations for doing it." So I know he cares, really. He's just an 82-year-old stubborn man.
So just asking you as actors, had any of you had any encounters with Richard Forman or Patrick's work? Did any of you know about it before? No? So
well, I knew about Richard Forman.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've been interested in this type of theatre before. So I've done already like plays on absurd theatre or more abstract type of thing. So I did like Richard Forman, and when I saw, of course, that Patrick was doing it, I started to find out a couple of things about him, and I was quite impressed because I just thought it was something like that ended, not that people would keep working on it. So it was quite inspiring for me to see, and I was really curious to see his approach, because of course I knew that his work was very personal. So whenever he creates something like this play, for me, is still about art, because I mean there's this theme in it, and I feel it's like a mix of thoughts about art. So then it's up to him, Patrick, how to create this through us. So I thought it was really interesting to see something so personal, how can still be adapted and by someone else, and how can still be a base for a director to bring out his own view and his own world, which I think people should maybe look a bit more at Richard Forman about it, because maybe they're a bit scared that it's too personal, but it's just a base, just a blank page, to be honest.
So within that, what are the challenges of action? Emma, put you on the spot there. How have you found this approach as a new genre, a new way of working? Has it been difficult or easy?
It's been really, really, it's been both liberating and limiting simultaneously, I'd say, because you refrain at all costs to add meaning to it from in terms of a character arc, a narrative. And so learning the lines, apologies again, I got them all right, don't worry. Learning the lines was a nightmare, because particularly whilst we were still building the show, for me it had to be entirely physical, and the only thing that motivated a line was something physical. So without having that plotted, and even like the smallest bit of physicality, and that changed up until this afternoon. You found moments and you went, that's why I'm saying that line. No, don't think that. You know, do you see what I mean? So it was unlike anything I'd say I've ever really done before in that respect.
And have you enjoyed it?
Immensely, yes.
Have you all enjoyed it?
Yes. We have to say yes, but yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I haven't.
Should we talk about the rest of the series? So this is the first of 3 plays
Yes,
that
you
you're
can
doing.
buy all 3 for £40.
And are they all taking place here?
Yes, yeah. So this is at this space, for those of you who schlepped out to Wimbledon, I thank you very much. But actually, this space is an amazing space that Wimbledon Theatre offer up to companies like this. You know, you can go above a pub, which is fantastic, but this is a fully functioning theatre, as you can tell, and the tech team are absolutely amazing. They let us do all sorts of shit to the place, which normally you wouldn't be able to. So this is actually, I've been here many, many times, and some of the cast from previous shows are here. With other Richard Forman plays, and the kind of shape of the space works for it. So yes, we're doing another 2 plays this year as part of the Forman at 50 season, not 50 years old, as he pointed out to me, is that he's 50 years in theatre, that's his anniversary this year. So we're doing a play in July called Lava, and a play in December called Zomboid. And there are specific parts of this play which weren't in the original paint, that we've stripped from the other 2 plays to put into here, so that these characters, when they go into the next play, are following some kind of, not journey, but they're in a world. So I've taken parts of the script from Lava and actually put it into the sound effects which you heard. So yeah, I mean, it will be good. You might see some of these in them if you want to do it again. Yeah, it's exciting, and it's, you know, it's very difficult, because you can tell the energy level that it takes, and we only rehearse in the evenings, 2 or 3 times a week, because money, there is no money for this kind of theatre, and so we've had to really work hard over the course of I think 10 weeks, but only 2 or 3 times a week to get this all together. So it's going to be an exhausting process, but hopefully it'll be rewarding. And rewarding for audiences, not necessarily to enjoy it. Richard Forman said that he doesn't care if people enjoy it, but he hopes that they enjoy themselves watching it. Yeah, at least you feel like you're having a good time watching it rather than wanting to be dead.
And going down the line, so you, what do you want audiences to take away from it? What do you want them to get? How do you want them to feel?
I want them to feel a bit like when you have a spinning top and it has all of the static images that go around, and then you start to whack it, and that kind of whir of images goes round. So that kind of feeling of, can't remember everything in detail, but I just remember this whir of images, and that they looked at them. You don't have to enjoy them, but that you looked at them, you experienced them, and also that, this isn't serious theatre. This isn't going to be on at the National Theatre. It is what it is, and it exists, and now it doesn't exist for you people. You'll never see it again, and as we say there, you can either think about it or don't think about it, because it doesn't matter.
I think the main takeaway, I would say, is don't overthink things. Yeah.
I say it's just kind of what theatre should be, literally just to kind of escape for a bit. It's wacky, it's wonderful, is what it is, and as Patrick was saying, it happens, and now you can just forget about it, which I think is quite wonderful, really.
Well, I think what's quite interesting is that giving to the audience something else. The audience paying the ticket, and his little reward is to go and see a story, and see characters, and follow, and trying to understand. And what kind of this type of theatre request, it's a lot of, you have to pay attention. Right? You have to pay a lot of attention. Oh, you can sleep if you want, yeah, of course you'll leave. But if you stay, you do have to pay attention. And the last 2 phrases of the play I think is really interesting about your thoughts. Are they just, can you get interested in them, or are they just occurring? And maybe if you can get interested, you can do the same and take a page and start to write all your thoughts and get a lot of dolls and do it.
I think I want the audience to feel challenged on what they conventionally think theatre should be, challenged on what matters, and challenged on what they think meaning is, and what, I mean, I think a lot of the parallels we've drawn is based on, if you went to an art gallery and you saw a dot on a page, you can read so much into that, or you can't, you can choose not to. So I guess we present this to you as like, what do you want to see? Does it really mean anything at all? Or do we just invest meaning into things that don't actually have a meaning? It's really hard to be at the end. I think just maybe see something you've never seen before. You'll never see that same performance again. It'll be different tomorrow night, I promise you. But sort of fundamentally, hopefully, that was new for people in one regard. Maybe you've got all these dolls at home, but you don't have the pram.
You can get them.
So,
You can get them at the end of the week.
hopefully it was something new.
I think that's important as well. The challenging element of it, the challenging
part of it is two things. I actually do want an audience to come and be like, I mean, lots of people here have seen my stuff before, so they know not to expect narrative and kind of linear storytelling. But for those who haven't been before, I want them to come along and sit in their chair and be like, oh, avant-garde theatre, I know what this is going to be about. And then very, very quickly be confronted and challenged, and the reason the lights flash and the sounds whir and everything's deafening and banging and moving is because you don't just want to sit cathartically being like, oh yeah, there's Rhoda, she wants to... notice, this is important, we've talked about this before, on the flyer there is a big narrative story telling you about what this play is about, and it has nothing to do with the play. But you've got to sell tickets, you have to tell people something. And within the programme as well, there is a list of scenes which tells you what's going on in the scene, and of course that's not what's actually happening. But from a marketing perspective, you have to give people something to entice them in to come along, then they watch it, then they start having lights flashed at them, which I know is really annoying. And they have loud noises, and these guys are pissing them off. But you have a laugh on the way, and it is supposed to be light-hearted. Actually, someone who's seen all of our plays before came to shoot the rehearsals and said, God, it's so nice to see one that's so light. And actually, I think there is a great lightness to this. It's supposed to be funny, it's supposed to be farcical and stupid. So I think people come thinking they know what's going to happen, just like what you were going to say, and then they're really challenged, but then they laugh, and everybody's pretty happy.
Do we at this point have any questions from the audience? Anybody? No? Okay, yeah.
I've got a question about the music. How free have you been to choose this very music?
Totally free. So it's half and half, so there are 185 sound cues which I operate up there. The music, I've tried to stick to kind of 30s, 40s, funny farcical music, so upbeat kind of jolly music, interspersed with kind of that awful didgeridoo sound, which is going. So in that respect, totally free. Just go to YouTube, find some nice music, put it in. We've changed it. That's another challenge that these guys can speak to, is that the sound effects are constantly changing throughout the rehearsal process. You add a ping here, you add a noise here, and it's a really hard job for these guys to not get really angry with me about that, because they, as you just said, Emma, you're learning it physically and moving along, and then I'm like, hang on, I've added a sheep barring or something, and then it all has to be relearned again. So yeah, the sounds is really interesting, and it's great for me because I can just make it up totally on the spot, and the good thing, and this, again, you did really well today, I only made one error with the sound cues, but I can see the production, I can also see the audience, so I can see how they're reacting. So if I need to speed up the scene, kind of like a conductor, I can speed up the sound effects. I can change the rhythm of the sound effects and move the scene quickly. And if people seem to be having a really good time, I'll just take my time with the stuff. So the sound effects and the music is really, really important, and gives me a good sense of control from up there, which I think is helpful.
It actually challenges us. Sometimes it doesn't do it the right ones to give us a new, fresh approach to what we're doing. So sometimes it's like kind of like trying to make a mess for us in order to.
And actually, instead of doing a line run like you do kind of towards the end of the play, where we'll sit down and go through the script just speaking it, we did a sound cue run. So we just literally went through the sound cues without any speaking, and kind of physically placed ourselves throughout the scene. So again, it becomes a rhythmic thing rather than just total random. Yeah, that was a nice question.
Thank you. I have another one. Yep, go. Just about the costumes, which are very intriguing, and actually they enhance the play immensely. Did you have any guidance, or it was just your whim, or you're just felt something in the background?
Not that actors are, self-centered and all me, but the actors do like to know what they're going to wear throughout the whole thing. So what am I wearing? What am I wearing? What am I wearing? And so, to be honest, I actually didn't know. I didn't know because actually these objects that we've made throughout time change my perception of what's going on. Then it got very close to the time, and the girls were wearing wedding dresses, beautiful wedding dresses, and then it just got to kind of a couple of weeks ago, and this kind of Elizabethan, Tudor-ish, the guys at the costume studio, compared to the costumes in the back, you do know there's about 400 years between these two. I said, it's okay. This is the kind of play where you can do that. But that kind of Elizabethan grand, I guess it was to do with posing, because every scene is basically a painting. It's supposed to be a final picture, a tableau. And there's something very, very painterly-like by having people in Tudor costumes, the whole kind of physicality. I mean, what do you like the costumes? Is that something that helps you? Does it help you? Because actually, if you just wore your normal clothes, so again, in the 70s, when this play was done, people just wore a t-shirt and trousers. I'm conscious that people are paying money to see it, and they don't want to just see people in blacks wandering around the stage. So there's an element of that too. But
I think for me, what I've loved about this project is just the pure element of surprise of what's going to come out of Patrick's head. And it's been a real joy to kind of be immersed in the unknowing, and for it to be so extreme. we just have to laugh about it now and be like, it's bloody great, because we don't get this enough in life. We're always so confined and so we have to walk regimented and we have to do this, and then Patrick comes along and is like, yeah, we're gonna have pumpkins painted gold. And it's just, it's brilliant.
Would you consider doing this stuff with a more traditional narrative play? Firstly, I'd like to say I think it's a real shame that theatre is often very, very narrow when it should be such a free and open space. Actually,
Totally.
what we see most of the time is either 700 productions of a Shakespeare play or contemporary drama with a focus on identity politics, and not a lot in between. So actually, it's kind of remarkable that this is unusual, and there should be a whole spectrum, right?
Yeah.
But there isn't, I don't think. Would you do a Chekhov play with this? I saw Shipwreck at the Almeida a couple of weeks ago, which is sort of, I don't know if anybody saw Mr. Burns, sort of bits like this, and also a story. And I wonder whether that could be a step in your canon, to do sort of
we did discuss that actually quite some length about, Chekhov would probably lend itself very well to this, because nothing happens in Chekhov either, so that's quite good. I guess, I think I would, and actually the more we discuss it, actually that's quite an interesting perspective. That has been done quite a lot. So the Ruster Group often interpret Hamlet, using heads in TV screens and deconstructing the whole thing and then rebuilding it. I think I would like to try it at some point. The thing is with this is you don't know anything about this show, therefore I can do literally anything I want, and so can these guys. With Chekhov, critically, and an audience will come with a perception of what it's going to be and the story, how are they going to interpret it. So they're going to have that narrative the whole way through, knowing what's supposed to happen. Whereas with this, I get this kind of writing, you just don't know what's coming. But I would like to. I think that's a good idea. You thought it would work too.
Yeah, literally, she just said it. But
Yeah.
exciting to see
Yeah.
what would happen.
Bit of both. Because in Shipwreck, there's bits which are this,
Mm.
and then we go back into sort of like contemporary American dialogue,
Yeah.
and then we're in a world of costumes and animal heads. So
Yeah.
I guess some
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I think that's interesting. I mean, that's the everything that happens here is a conversation, even though these guys don't know it. It's definitely a conversation. I don't want it to sound like I walk into I walk into the room and be like, stand there, hold that, move that, put that down, now wait for that sound. Because actually, what I'm doing when I'm watching is I'm watching these guys responding to what's happening and refining it. Set that to the cherry orchard. And I think that could be a very interesting combination. We have done the cherry orchard in here before, and these people were in it, so that's good. But yeah, no, I think that's a good idea.
Any more questions? You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you also, because as you can probably imagine, it doesn't look like much, I guess, the set and everything. Fucking cursing was, but it meant that I haven't actually had much time outside of being up there or down here just putting things on the floor to say thank you to everybody properly. And I know normally a director would go backstage just before the show and say, guys, you've got this, you can nail it, I believe in you, thank you. And what he said was, we're opening the house in 2 minutes, get out. And so now is my opportunity to say I am very, very grateful for everybody's hard work and dedication to it and producing what we produced tonight. Thank you.